Okay, hello, welcome everybody. My name is Victor, as usual. We're going to be working on the Cisco Ethical Hacker course. We've gone a long way before now, so if you're new to the channel, you could check the series. It's on a playlist. We've looked at the Ethical Hacker series, where we looked at about the 10 modules and walked through some labs. Introduction to ethical hacking and penetration testing. Then planning, scoping, and penetration testing. We've also looked at information gathering and vulnerability scanning. We looked at quite some of the modules, and we've also looked at the labs, how to set up your virtual machine, how to investigate the Kali Linux environment, how to check the interface, maybe change your password, check the applications that you have, look at your CLI, your interface, and all of that, maybe change your RAM size and all of that. Now, we want to progress by looking at some additional labs. So we're going to we'll be looking at about 3-4 labs. So I have OWASP, that's Open Web Application Security Projects. This is a framework for helping developers make sure that they create secured applications, secured websites. Now, they have a testing guide. That guide tells you as a pen tester what to look out for, how to test, and what tools you can use. We're also going to look at injection attacks. We're going to look at writing a pen testing report, look at recommendations and findings. They will also look at password attacks. So let's look at the very first one. If you're following the series, this is lab 6, 12, 13. Now, what's the objective? We want to look at the web security testing guide. If you're doing vulnerability assessment and pen testing, what should you be looking out for? And what are some of the common vulnerabilities you are going to be seeing, and how should you test for them? Then, can we test a website that's already vulnerable that we can use to learn how to conduct vulnerability assessment? The background or the scenario that we have here is us trying to look at how different stakeholders can get to deliver this. Now, a web project is going to involve developers, software testers, security analysts, and of course, project managers. Now, the OWASP WSTG, that's the web testing guide, is a free tool that helps organizations to actually run their tests and run them in a very systematic methodological process. This testing guide is used for ethical hacking, and it gives us a kind of a nice framework to get the job done. So what do we need in this lab? We need two things. We need our Kali VM, that's our Kali virtual machine. We also need internet access. Now, the very first one is for us to actually understand what it means to do pen testing and what guide can we use. So I will open this link. I will peruse through, and we see what the project is about. So this is a nonprofit project by OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, and this is the guide. This is a comprehensive guide for testing. Now, the latest version is version 5, but currently we are on version, I think, 4.2, thereabouts. Yes, I think 4.2. Now, okay, this is it here. 4.2 is currently released as a web-hosted release and PDF. So this is 4.2 that we can see. And it's also maintained and updated via the GitHub repository. So this is a little information about it. You have other release versions. These are the versions and from way back, right? Some of them are available in PowerPoint, in PDFs. This one too, we are currently going to use is available in PDF. So if I open this PDF, this is an awesome guide. So if you want to go into web penetration testing, so this should be like your bread and butter. So it's downloading. Once it's done, I'm going to tap on it, open it, and walk through it. Now, just understand that it also has, there's a web interface that you can use to go through the chapters. This is it here, table of content. You have Okay, I think that's done. Let me just tap on it and open it. So this is what the PDF, this is what the document looks like. So this is like the Web Security Testing Bible. I call it a Bible because it has everything you need to know about penetration testing or security testing for web applications. Provided your website is static driven or database driven, you can use this to do your testing, right? So it has chapters, introduction, the testing framework itself, the phases, and also how to now conduct the test itself. The conducting the test starts from, let me zoom this out. Conducting the test starts from module 4. So if I want to do information gathering, how do I do that? So I will have to conduct search engine discovery reconnaissance for information leakage. How do I fingerprint a web server? That's to say, get information about the web server, things like the operating system, how it is made, what version, yes, typically that. Then review web server meta files, that is data that explains data. So all of those things, if I want to do information gathering, how do I do that? Then of course, configuration and deployment management. So you have all of those details well spelled out. Okay, back to the lab. Now, if you have time, you could digest all of these. And of course, if you're also doing reporting, if you want to do reporting, you can check this out. I think that's module 5, reporting. So if I'm going to do reporting, how do I get to do that, document all of that? So the very first question is, what's the purpose of OWASP web testing guide? As you know, it's just a guide that helps us to test our web application. It tells us about techniques, methods, tools. So you see the testing guide is going to make mention of tools, softwares like Bob Shield, OWASP, all of those tools that I can use to do all of my testing. It provides a framework for best practices. So if you're doing web pen testing and you don't know about OWASP, I think you might not be doing the right thing. You might be doing a lot of gambling. So click the release version tab, and what's the current release version of this guide? So I just told you that's 4.2. We're on 4.2. 5.0 is under going process. Okay, so 4.2. Now let's review some of the content. Click on the forward by Aaron Carey in the table of content. According to Mr. Carey, who is initially responsible for application security. If your guess is good as mine, it should be the software developer, the web application developer, or the software engineer. So let's just go to that table of content and go to the forward by Aaron Carey. And let's look at, let's scan through and see. You have a lot of problems with insecure software. People trying to make the world a place where insecure software is an anomaly, not a norm. So that's what OWASP is trying to do. It goes without saying that you can't build a secure software without performing testing on it. So if you create a software, you have to test it to be sure that it is secured. So testing is part of a wider approach to build secured software. In conjunction with OWASP, so there's a review guide. This guide must make its way into the hands of developers or software testers, right? Because without them, we cannot have secured softwares. I think that sums it up. If we go there and check the answer, it's responsibility of the software developer. Return to the content, table of content, and check the introduction. If you go to the introduction, we're trying to get to see the framework and understand what it's about before we go into testing. So this has been development for years. It will help people to understand what to test, why they are to test, when they should test, where they should test, and how they should test web applications. Right? Now, This is a complete testing framework, not a mere simple checklist. Okay, so you have quite a lot of information here. You cannot control what you can't measure. So this is what is testing, why testing, and of course, when to test. Then you have what we call the software development life cycle, which tells you all the phases that the software goes through before it becomes launched, from you defining the objectives of the software, looking at key stakeholders, what they intend to deliver, designing it, doing all of the UI, UX, here you do requirements gathering, actually developing it, then deploy it, then of course maintain. So this is what we call the generic software development life cycle. And you do your testing, you deploy people, processes, and technology. People, of course, testers have to do that. Processes mean you should have guidelines, you should have standards, what you need to follow. And of course, in technology, you're going to use softwares, you're going to use tools. Now, security testing should be included in which phase of the software development life cycle? So in all phases, and this is the new thing, if you do software testing at the end of your project, it's going to be vulnerable. So you should have softwares secured by design. So right from the initial stage where you're conceptualizing, designing them, developing them, you should be infusing security measures and features into the entire process so that you have a secure software. So what 3 factors should be tested in an effective testing program? The people, the process, and of course, technology. So you have the long list of techniques and definitions here. So if you check them, some of the techniques you can use is to do manual inspection and reviews. You should do threat modeling. Now, threat modeling is you trying to say, what are all the possible ways in which people might try to attack us? You know, when you say a model is like you're trying to create a miniature version of a bigger stuff. So you want to try to see what are those possible ways. Then, of course, source code review, right? You can manually check them. You can do static code. You can do static analysis. You can do dynamic analysis. Static analysis is when you are actually checking the code as it is for vulnerabilities. Then dynamic analysis is where you are actually using a software to like run through to see if there are vulnerabilities. And of course, penetration testing. Now, if you check the table of contents, now, according to the framework, what are the phases in which testing activity should take place? Like I said, right from when you're designing, when you're developing, when you are deploying, and of course, when you're doing maintenance. Now, there are actually 12 categories in penetration testing. And if you look at the guide, it covers information gathering, configuration and deployment management testing, identity management testing. That is IAM. You want to check all different ways identity is being managed. Then, of course, authentication, all the different levels of authentication, what you are, where you are, who you are, all of those things you want to actually test them and make sure that they're not vulnerable. Then authorization testing, session management testing, input validation testing. That's where SQL injection comes in from. Error handling, because if you don't test how your system responds to errors, somebody can throw up a message at your application. The error that comes out can lead to them understanding your system better and create a leeway for an attack. Cryptography, business logic testing. So normally before softwares are created, there's always a business side of the software. Requirements are being gathered. So how a software operates or a web application operates can make it result into a vulnerability. Take, for instance, before somebody should pay for a membership fee for an application, or rather to claim benefits on a store for members, the person should first be a member before the person can pay for items meant for members. So if the person is not a member first, what it means is that if members are paying $100 and non-members are paying $150, if the software does not check to make sure that there's a flow in the logic, that's going to lead to vulnerability. So people can pay less than what they should pay, and that's a vulnerability. Of course, you have client-side testing. Of course, you have API testing, application programmable interface. So if your application is interfacing with any third party, let's say you are implementing a payment gateway like Paystack, FlutoWave, Stripe, ToCheckout, PayPal, any payment system you're integrating, of course, you're also going to check your communication with that API to make sure that it's clean, it is safe. If you're implementing or integrating, let's say, any third-party tool like from AWS, Google, or let's say you're implementing Google Capture system, how do you ensure that it is safe? So how do you do that testing is properly documented in the web testing guide. Okay, so who should we submit this to? It should be submitted to the management. So anytime you do your report for your pen testing, it should be submitted to the what? To the stakeholders, because they are the one to take action. They are the one to make final decision on whatever you've done. Okay, that's the end of part 1 of this lab. This lab is intended to give you an overview about the web pen testing guide. You can download the 4.2 guide and study it. It's going to give you a lot of heads up. In part 2, we're going to start a test and we're going to be using OWASP.